Hey guys, today we are going to solve a very simple question from the chapter Differentiation. Okay, so we'll start off with a simple question which is differentiate the following functions with respect to x. Okay, so that is the main question. The underlying sub question here is the equation which we have. Okay, let's start off. So the equation or the function goes like this: 2 to the power of x into cot x divided by root x. Okay, so this is the question. We have to differentiate this function with respect to x. Okay, so how will we do this? I'll give you a very simple way of getting done with this question, and as we go forward with the procedure, we will learn a couple of new thumb rules. We'll learn a few principles in the differentiation chapter. Okay, so let's start off. So usually when I see an equation like this which looks like this, where there is an f of x divided by g of x, something like that, which is in the division format, the easiest way for me to tackle a question would be to put everything in one umbrella. Now यहाँ पे हमारे पास एक numerator है, we also have a denominator. It would make more sense if everything is under one roof. Either all of it is in the numerator or all of it in the denominator. It doesn't make sense if we put everything in the denominator, because again we'll have one upar. So I'll try to simplify this function. So let me write it down. 2 to the power of x into cot x divided by root x is nothing but, if you put it in a power sign, it's x to the power 1 by 2. Okay, so all I've done right now is just changed the format of root x. Now to move a number or an equation or this particular function to the numerator side, whenever we do that, the power sign changes its symbol. Okay, how? Let's see. 2 to the power of x into cot x, when we move this x to the power of 1 by 2 to the top, it becomes into x to the power minus 1 by 2. Okay, all I've done right now is that I have put this equation in a very simplified form. नीचे वाला root x ऊपर कर दिया. Okay, let's move forward. Now there is one good principle, or there is one good thumb rule in the differentiation chapter, which goes like this. If you see a function which looks like this, f to the power of x into g to the power of x into h to the power of x, which our current function is looking like, we have to apply the following thumb rule. यहाँ पे we can see there are three different functions are multiplied with each other. Okay, so this looks in this format: f to the power of x into g to the power of x into h to the power of x. So we have a thumb rule for this, or a principle for this, which goes as follows. I'll try to put it in a very easy way. F of x, what we have, first things first, we'll try to differentiate f of x. Okay, then we'll individually differentiate each function which we have, g of x and d by dx of h of x. Okay, the first thing, we will individually differentiate each function which we have. Then we multiply each of this with the remaining two functions without differentiating them. यहाँ पे हमने differentiate किया f of x को, अब हम इसे multiply करेंगे g of x into h of x. Same thing here, यहाँ पे हमने differentiate किया g of x को, we'll multiply this with f of x into h of x. Same thing here, h of x is something that we have differentiated here. We'll multiply it by g of x into f of x. Cool. That is the whole point of this principle. We have to individually differentiate each function, then multiply these respective differentiations with the other two functions without differentiating them. ठीक है, मेरे बोलने से शायद it might not make sense, but looking at the formula, I think it should be a pretty easy one, right? So now we have three different bits of the same answer. It's a part of the entire answer. So this is the first bit, this is the second bit, this is the third bit. What we have to do is we have to just add all the three bits together at the end and we'll get our answer for this question. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. First thing, let's try to do the first bit. D by dx of what is f of x. Now again I'll try to bring it into like some simpler understanding. 2 to the power of x is f of x here, g of x is cot x, and h of x is x to the power negative 1 by 2. Okay, so d by dx of 2 to the power of x, multiply this by cot x and multiply the same by x to the power negative 1 by 2. Okay, this is the first bit which we have. This first bit, we'll add it with the second bit. The second bit, what do we have in the second bit? D by dx of g of x. G of x is nothing but cot x. Cot x, and multiply this by 2 to the power of x into x to the power negative 1 by 2. Cool. दो bit आ चुके हैं. Let's go for the third bit. The third bit which we have is d by dx, and then we have to do h of x. H of x is x to the power negative 1 by 2. X to the power negative 1 by 2, and multiply this by the remaining two ones, which are 2 to the power of x into cot x. I hope this is easy. All we are doing is we have just allocated all the functions into the formula which we have here individually. Okay, now let's get into it. I'll try to make you guys understand what are the principles of differentiating each of these functions here. So d by dx of 2x, let me have a small segment here with myself where I make you guys understand. There's a principle, there's a thumb rule. Whenever we are doing something which looks in this format, d by dx of a to the power of x. Okay, this is how it is. The base here which we have, it doesn't have an x, right? It's just a number. It looks in the format of d by dx a to the power of x, where again a is greater than 0, right? Whenever we see an equation or a function where we are doing a differentiation in such a format, the answer or the thumb rule or the principle for it is that we put the a to the power of x the way it is, and then we add a log e a. Okay, whenever we see a function jahan pe it looks into the format of a to the power of x, the principle for it is that a to the power of x into log ea is the differentiating aspect. Let's put those values here. Yahan pe a is equal to 2, right? 2 to the power of x. So when we differentiate this function, we get 2 to the power of x into log e2. Okay, and then we multiply it by the same cot x into x to the power negative 1 by 2. Cool. Let's go for the second one. I'll write it here, the second one. The second one which we have, I'll throw it up here. The second bit, we have cortex. So whenever we are differentiating or applying the differentiation to a trigonometric function, especially for cortex, d by dx, there's a principle which states that d by dx of cortex is always equal to negative cosecant square x. ठीक है, this is the principle. I think if you guys are not new to this chapter, you guys already know that d by dx of cortex is negative cosecant square x. So let's put that value here, negative cosecant square x, and multiply it by 2 to the power of x into x to the power negative 1 by 2. हो गया, that's the second bit which we got. Add the same with the third bit. Now the third bit, it doesn't look like 2 to the power of x. Okay, why? In this first equation which we did, where we applied this d by dx of ax, the base didn't have an x. Base पे x नहीं था, power पे x दिखा रहा था. So it was suitable for this function a to the power of x. But यहाँ पे base पे ही we have x. Okay, so for this we have a different principle which goes like this. Whenever we are differentiating a function which looks like x to the power of n, okay, x है and यहाँ पे n is equal to negative 1 by 2. Okay, whenever we are differentiating a function which looks like this, x to the power of n, the answer is always, or we have to apply it in such a way that it looks like n into x to the power of n minus 1. Okay, this is the principle. D by dx of x to the power of n is equal to n into x to the power of n minus 1. Here n is negative 1 by 2. Okay, so let's try to do it. Negative 1 by 2, because we are multiplying it, negative 1 by 2 into x to the power of n minus 1. So negative 1 by 2 minus 1. Got it? I hope it's pretty much simple. All we have done is that whenever we see something in the format of x to the power of n, the answer is n into x to the power of n minus 1. वही किया हमने, and let's multiply this by the rest two functions which we have. 2 to the power of x into cot x. Alright, once we are done with establishing all the three bits of this answer, let's try to simplify it or solve it more so that it becomes more convenient for us, or we try to give them the accurate answer possible. यहाँ पे भी answer आ चुका है, but let's try to break it down into simpler terms. Okay, let's go forward. The first bit, as usual, it doesn't have much changes. 2 to the power of x into log e2 into cot x. Here, if you remember, we have one x to the power negative 1 by 2. The power sign is negative 1 by 2. If we have to turn it into a positive sign, if you remember previously what we did, we had a root x. What we did, वो root x को हमने change किया power sign में, which is nothing but x to the power 1 by 2. And to bring it to the top, when we brought it to the top, it became negative 1 by 2. Right? अगर इसे positive करना है, so if we reverse engineer this, if we have to make this into positive 1 by 2, we have to bring it down to the denominator. It is in the numerator right now. Denominator में लेके जाएंगे तो it becomes x to the power 1 by 2, which is nothing but root x. Let's do the same here. Since we are simplifying the answer, as we are simplifying the answer, divided by root x, right? Instead of writing it like x to the power negative 1 by 2, all we did was we brought it down to the denominator. ऑलराइट, ये हो गया. एंड सेकेंड वाले बिट में भी वी हैव द सेम थिंग विद अस, सो लेट्स डू दैट एज वेल. यहाँ पे एक चीज़ ध्यान रखना, वी हैव अ नेगेटिव साइन. Okay, we do have a negative sign here, which is negative cosecant square s. We did have a positive sign here, we had to add all the three bits, but now since we have a negative sign, negative cosecant square x into 2 to the power of x, divide the entire thing by root x. Right, यहाँ पे हमारे पास था x to the power negative 1 by 2. All we did was we brought it down to the denominator side. हो गया. We have simplified both the answers. Now the third one, I think this one's a bit complex, थोड़ा सा, ज़्यादा भी नहीं. Let's go ahead. The third one is negative 1 by 2, right? So पहले से ही यहाँ पे negative sign आ जाएगा. Negative x minus 1 by 2 minus 1. Let me do it somewhere. कहाँ करूँ? Let me do it here. Negative 1 by 2 minus 1. Negative 1 by 2 minus 1. It's simple. Negative 1 minus 2 by 2, which is nothing but negative 3 by 2. ठीक है? All we have to do is we have to arrange or write that here. Negative x to the power negative 3 by 2. Okay, x to the power 3 by 2, and then multiply it with, what did we have, 2 to the power of x into cot x divided by 2. ये divided by 2 was this. यहाँ पे जो 2 दिख रहा है आपको, negative 1 by 2, वो 2 नीचे ला दिया हमने, and then we have worked upon all the other things which we have. One thing to understand here, this 2 which we see is 2 to the power of 1, right? And ऊपर भी हमारे पास एक 2 to the power of x है. Let's do a thing, let's bring this 2 ऊपर and let's bring this x नीचे, because we have a negative sign here, right? Let's bring this नीचे so it becomes a positive sign. Okay? तो हमने क्या किया, ये 2 to the power of 1 को ऊपर लाया, which made it 2 to the power of minus 1 into 2 to the power of x into cot x. नीचे हमने लाया x to the power negative 3 by 2, which became x to the power 3 by 2. Okay, let's try to just simplify this again. ये दोनों first two bits we have it. All we have to do is like attach this third one and the answer is with us. Okay, now when we are multiplying, now that the base are same, we are adding this, because the multiplication principle again, when the bases are same, the powers we just add them and we are multiplying it. So negative 2 to the power of x minus 1, right? X है minus 1 है, which is nothing but x minus 1 into cot x. नीचे if you can see x to the power 3 by 2. If you want to separate x to the power 3 by 2, you can see that denominator से बड़ा है numerator. You can also write this as x to the power 2 by 2 into x to the power 1 by 2, right? Like I said, if the bases are the same, all we can do is we can add the powers. When we add the powers, 2 plus 1 3 हो गया, 2 तो वैसा ही रहेगा, so 3 by 2 आ जाएगा. We are just segregating this 3 by 2 into this format. Why? Because x to the power 2 by 2 will now become 1. X to the power 1, 2 by 2 is nothing but 1, right? So x to the power 1 into x 1 by 2. Let's write it down again. ये पेपर मैं थोड़ा साइड रख लेता हूँ. I think now we are done with the entire equation. Let me write down the first two answers which we got, the first two bits. 2 to the power of x log e2 into cot x divided by root x. This was the first bit which we had with us, minus cosecant square x into 2 to the power of x, xi by root x. This was the second bit. Third bit pe we had 2 to the power of x minus 1 into cot x divided by x. यहाँ पे 2 by 2 था. 2 by 2 is nothing but, I'll show it to you again. We had x to the power 2 by 2. That's nothing but 2 by 2 is 1. Into x to the power 1 by 2. X to the power 1 by 2 is square root of x. तो यहाँ पे आया x to the power of 1 into square root of x. There you go. So this is the final answer which we have. The 3 bits. Now यहाँ पे positive signs थे, but since the differentiating part में we got negative signs, it entirely changed the answer. Okay, be very careful while you are trying to understand the sign, because kabhi the signs might get changed as you are writing or going forward in the answer. Cool. This is the answer. I'll just give you one small recap on what we did and how we came to the answer. The first thing which I did was that I tried to simplify it. Whenever you see a question in this format, I know there is another principle where we can do f of x by g of x and we can apply that principle or formula. But believe me, this makes it much more easier. You can see that one page where we had all the answers with us. All we have to do right now to simplify it, root x ko we brought it up, x1 by 2. When it goes up, it becomes x to the power negative 1 by 2. Okay. Now that we have all the 3 in the same numerator's position, this equation or a function looks like f to the power of x into g to the power of x into h to the power of x. You can see ये तीनों इस format में दिख रहा है. So whenever we see a function shown in this format, we have to apply the following formula, or there's a following principle allocated to it, which is nothing but individually differentiate each of the function and then multiply this individual functions with the rest of the functions separately without differentiating them. F of x differentiate किया, multiply it with g of x and h of x without differentiating them. Differentiate g of x and then multiply it with f of x and h of x. Differentiate h of x and then multiply it with g of x and f of x. Do this, add all the 3 bits which you have and you'll get your answer. We did the same. We just went with differentiating each function individually or multiply कर दिया. करते वक्त we came across a few principles. D by dx of a to the power of x, where a is greater than 0. The equation or the thumb rule for it is that a to the power of x log EA is what we arrive at whenever we see something at this formula. That's a principle. Okay. The second principle which we saw was of a trigonometric function. The differentiation of a trigonometric function, we do have certain principles around it. For cot x, the answer is always negative cosecant square x. Okay. For d by dx of cot x ho gaya negative cosecant square x. Then the last thing is d by dx of x to the power of n. Whenever we see a function in this format, the principle for it states that the answer or the differentiating aspect for it is always n into x to the power of n minus 1. N is the power here. Okay. These are the 3 principles which we learned or which we utilized in this answer. At the same time, there is a bigger thumb rule, which was whenever we see a function in this format, we do so and so procedures or actions. Okay. ये करने के बाद We did get our answer, yes, but at the same time we also had to like simplify our answer. Simplify करने के बाद whatever we have arrived at is the final answer. If you want, since we have the same base here, you can just, you know, combine both of these and put this separately. Cool. So this is the answer. I hope you guys understood it. If you guys have some questions, please feel free to let me know in the comments. Okay, thank you.